Matching outfits, extravagant birthdays, many nicknames, few classic moves of a dog-obsessed parent. And at Ollie, they're obsessed with how obsessed you are with your pup, which is why they obsess over giving your dog the best. Ollie's fresh human-grade recipes are developed by real chefs and backed by vet nutritionists. The meals are perfectly proportioned and come with a puptainer and a scoop for easy storing and mess-free serving, delivering the best experience for you and your pup. And through the Ollie app, you can actually check in on your dog's health with real vets. By uploading a picture, their team can check your dog's weight, digestion, teeth, and coat. They'll then provide next steps on how to keep them thriving. And because they're just as obsessed as you are, there's zero judgment if you check in every day. You could say Ollie feeds the obsession. Go to ollie.com/truecrime and use the code TRUECRIME to get 60% off your welcome kit. Ollie, feed the obsession.
Why have we asked our contractor we found on Angie.com to be our kids' legal guardian? Because he took such good care when redoing our basement that we knew we could trust him to care for our kids.
We only met a month ago.
Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find pros for all your home projects at Angie.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 455 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right.
That's great.
I got a little dental issue.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't affect your performance as it has the other recordings. No, I'm just messing. Hey, let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout-outs. We had Meredith Foley.
Hey, Meredith.
Kim Quinnen.
Well, thanks, Quinnen.
Ren Art.
Well, Art, appreciate that.
Jackie Connor jumped out to her highest level.
Oh, Connor.
Yvonne Douglas.
Hey, Yvonne.
Vicky.
Well, good old Vicky.
Katie Purvis.
There's Katie.
And last but not least, Kathleen Cotton.
Look at Kathleen coming in for us.
And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Christine.
Good old pristine Christine.
So we appreciate the new support, the continued support. We have a brand new episode out right now on True Crime All the Time where we're talking about Bobby Farrell Jr. He went missing from his Ohio home in 2021. And the killer, once he was identified, Gibbs, turned out to be someone that shocked friends and family. It was someone that Bobby really trusted.
Yeah.
And a person who had essentially become part of the family.
So disappointed.
Yeah, because the motive is so senseless in this case. But make sure you check that out. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am ready.
We're talking about Don Henry and Kevin Ives. A small town in Arkansas was shocked when two best friends were found dead on the train tracks. Authorities initially believed their death was an accident, but their families pushed for a second investigation. Don Henry was born on September 30th, 1970. Kevin Ives was born on April 28th, 1970. Don was 16 and Kevin was 17 when they died. The boys were going to be seniors at Bryant High School, and it was said that both of them were well liked by their peers. The two best friends enjoyed hunting together and working on their cars. Kevin loved being outdoors and regularly went on deer hunting trips with his dad. Don was described as a natural comedian. Most weekends, Don and Kevin went on double dates with their girlfriend.
Did you go on a lot of double dates?
I did not. I was never a big double date guy.
No,
I was pretty good on my own.
Yeah.
I'd never really needed a quote unquote wingman.
You had it covered.
I had it covered. In an interview with the Saline Courier, Kevin's mother, Linda Ives, described Kevin as a water bug who loved to ski. She also said Kevin was not perfect. He was a normal teenage boy. He didn't deserve to die so young. And, let's break that down a little bit. We always hear, especially parents, right, talking about their lost loved ones in very glowing terms. And they are here. I mean, they're saying, he was a great kid. He was a comedian. He loved to water ski, but he wasn't perfect. He was a normal teenager. And let's face it, what teenager is perfect?
Nobody at this table.
No. And we are definitely not teenagers at this point in time.
No, that's true.
But when we were teenagers, we certainly weren't perfect. But what she said is absolutely correct. No one deserves to die at such a young age.
It's tragic.
On the night of August 22nd, 1987, Don and Kevin met a group of friends at the commuter parking lot, which was a popular hangout spot for local teens. And it's kind of interesting, Gibbs, when you go through some of these stories, especially in smaller towns, to find out what the local hangout spot was back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a commuter parking lot. I mean, there's not a lot to do there. My assumption is it was just a place where people could congregate. There was space.
Park their cars and have some fun.
Now, strangely, when I was younger and just starting to drive, the Burger King, people would just drive their cars around the Burger King. They wouldn't even go through the drive-thru.
Just wanted to cruise through.
Yeah. Just driving around the Burger King.
That's how kind of like mine was. It started off like the local McDonald's, and it shifted over to the Godfather's Pizza area. And then just that's kind of how it stayed for the short period of time I was in school. Or as you would say,
the long period of time you were in school. I mean, we had 7 presidents while you were in high school.
That's just wrong.
But to be honest, there wasn't a lot to do where we lived back in the day. I mean, it's grown up, exponentially since we were that age. At midnight, the boys left to go back to Don's house. Kevin waited on the porch while Don went inside to talk to his father, Curtis. He came in around 12:15 a.m. and told his dad he was going hunting. Curtis told him to be careful. Don took one of his dad's spotlights and his .22 rifle. Okay, I get it. I mean, they were big into hunting.
Sure.
But it seems strange to me. I'm not a hunter, but it seems strange to me to go out hunting at 12:15 a.m.
Most don't.
It was said the boys were going spotlighting, which is a form of night hunting that is illegal in Arkansas.
I think it's illegal in most places.
Probably. And maybe part of that is because it's very dangerous, right? Hunting in and of itself is dangerous. At night, the danger is magnified.
Sure.
Apparently, one of the boys would shine a light in the animal's eyes to transfix them while the other fired.
Not really fair hunting, just to, put that out there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Don and Kevin went to their usual hunting area along the railroad tracks behind Don's house. In the early morning hours of August 23rd, 1987, a 6,000-ton cargo train was making its regular night run to Little Rock, Arkansas, traveling at a speed of 52 miles per hour. Around 4:30 a.m., the train was in Alexander, Arkansas, about a mile from Don Henry's home. Engineer Stephen Schroyer noted that things were going smoothly until he saw something in the train's path. He couldn't tell what it was at first and was horrified to discover 2 boys lying motionless on the track. Schroyer recalled unsolved mysteries from the time that we had placed the train into an emergency position and laid down on the horn. I would estimate about 3 to 5 seconds to impact. And that may not sound like a very long period of time, but when you're bearing down on a couple of children, it's an eternity, honestly. We've talked about a lot of things, on this podcast, Gibbs. I don't think we've ever talked about a train conductor bearing down on 2 people who are laying motionless on the tracks.
And I just think, what would that be like?
Well, I said it, right? We're talking about 6,000 tons going 52 miles an hour. You can't stop that on a dime.
No.
It's not going to happen. And so my thought is, he's going to do everything he can do, but he has to know. that there is no stopping that train in time. And I have no idea what the range of emotions would be going through this guy's mind.
I'm guessing at first you're like, move, 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 move.
Right.
Come on, move. You know?
You're hoping that the vibration, the sound, something is going to get these people to move. But at some point, it has to be clear that they're not capable of moving.
And you're not going to be able to stop the train in time either.
Although Schroyer initiated an emergency stop, the train continued moving for half a mile. The bodies were mangled by the time the train stopped. And I think that just puts it into perspective, right? From the time he put the emergency stop on, it still took half a mile to stop that thing. And I can't even imagine how badly mangled two bodies would be that were run over by a train and dragged. It's a sad and sickening thought.
It's not going to be a pretty sight.
The crew called in the accident immediately. The victims were identified as Don Henry and Kevin Ives. The crew who witnessed the accident recalled that Don and Kevin were lying exactly parallel on the tracks with their right arms straight down by their sides. They were partially covered by a light green tarp. Lying parallel to the bodies was Don's .22 caliber rifle. And they never moved, despite the horn and the sound of the approaching train. Local officials in Benton, where the train came to a full stop, treated the incident like a suicide, despite the crew's objections, according to the Encyclopedia of Arkansas. Officers also claimed they couldn't find the green tarp.
But the crew saw a green tarp.
Yeah, said they did. Meanwhile, Don and Kevin's parents were searching for the boys when they didn't come home. They were notified about their deaths on August 24th, after the boys had been identified through dental records.
I find it strange that they call it suicide, even though the train conductor and crew say the boys didn't move at all.
How hard would it be to lay still knowing that a train was bearing down on you if you were fully conscious, able to move? I mean, you're not going to flinch. You're not going to move a muscle. I don't know. That seems awful strange. And then, obviously, to me, if there is a green tarp laid over the bodies, well, why would someone do that to themselves? What would be the reasoning behind it?
I mean, if they were doing it to themselves, were they thinking they were going to camouflage themselves?
Maybe. Well, we got some mysteries here for sure. Lab results announced on August 26th revealed the teens had no alcohol in their blood. On September 4th, 1987, state medical examiner Dr. Fani Malik announced his findings, that the boys had smoked the equivalent of 20 marijuana cigarettes and were in a deep drug-induced sleep and never heard the train coming. 20 marijuana cigarettes, I don't think people call them that anymore, joints or whatever you want to call them. Who in the world smokes 20 joints at a time?
That's a lot of joints.
That's a lot of marijuana.
That's a lot of marijuana.
Well, let's not forget, these are young kids, right? 15, 16 years old. Where are they getting enough pot to roll 20 joints?
That's the other thing, right?
Yeah, they got that much money? And it seems like a waste.
Yeah, maybe 1, 2, maybe a third joint, right?
Okay, if you want to get crazy, I see how you roll.
You know, but 20 joints? Come on now.
It just doesn't seem plausible, right? If we're talking about the plausibility meter, the deaths were officially ruled an accident. Don and Kevin's parents didn't accept this and decided to conduct their own investigation. Larry Ives said he was determined to figure out what happened and to save his son's reputation. And that's an interesting facet, right, to this case. Obviously, they're grieving, both families, but I think at the same time, you're hearing that the kids' reputations are being smeared. They're being labeled as druggies or whatever it is. Right. And let's not forget, this is 1987. This is not 2026 where marijuana is legal in many, many places. It wasn't in 1987.
No, not at all.
And the connotation, I think, of it was much, much different.
Yeah, if you were smoking marijuana then, you were a druggie.
Yeah.
Your eggs were like your brain in a frying pan, or whatever that commercial was like. You know what I'm talking about?
This is your brain.
Yeah.
This is your brain on drugs.
Yeah.
Just say no. Larry told Unsolved Mysteries, well, I couldn't believe that Kevin was knocked out on marijuana or into any kind of heavy drugs, anything like that, because I was at home a lot during the day when Kevin came in from school and Linda was here at night, and we'd never seen him in a state that he even acted like he was, spaced out or however you want to phrase it.
Even if you smoked a lot of pot, are you telling me when that train's whistle blows, you hear that locomotive coming at you, the tracks are shaking?
It's loud, man. A train is loud. There is a train like a mile from my house, and I can hear it every night.
Yes.
Inside the house. So I can only imagine what it would sound like if I was standing next to it.
I mean, you would move. You would move.
I just keep going back to 20 marijuana cigarettes or joints. I've never heard of anyone smoking that much at one time.
No.
Maybe there's people out there saying, I do that all the time, but I would be shocked. According to the Encyclopedia of Arkansas, Saline County Sheriff James Steed Jr. repeatedly told the Benton Courier there was nothing at the tracks to suggest the deaths were more than a strange accident. Linda Ives criticized Steed's administration in a letter published in the Courier. In February 1988, Special Prosecutor Dan Harmon reached an agreement with Sheriff Steed that he would conduct further investigation if the parents stopped criticizing him. Hey, I'll do it, but only if these parents stop criticizing me.
Seems like a funny way to go about it.
It does. Should you not do it just because it's something that should be done? That month, the parents held a press conference asking for a grand jury to investigate the deaths. They contended the deaths were never investigated as a possible homicide. And initial reports from authorities said there was no reason to suspect foul play. So this kind of goes back to something you and I have talked about a lot. If you have to err on one side or the other in a death that at the very least seems somewhat suspicious, shouldn't you err on the side of investigating it as a homicide? Because if it's not, there's really no harm in that.
Yeah.
The problem is, I think if you go the other route and you just label it as an accident and do no investigation, that might be detrimental. There might be some things that are lost that you won't be able to get back.
I just find it strange that they say there's no reason to suspect foul play. You have two kids on a railroad track not moving with a train barreling down on them. You don't find that strange? And maybe there's some foul play going on?
Well, I think it goes back to this finding of how much marijuana they had in their system. And if that was correct, authorities are looking at that and saying, hey, they smoked too much. They passed out. They were unconscious and they died.
Yeah.
Curtis Henry said, as quoted by the Jonesboro Sun, no one has assured us that marijuana will put you in a position to be unconscious. In fact, everything we have read or learned about it says, no, it won't. We're not ruling out murder. Now, I'm not a big marijuana guy, but I won't say that I didn't inhale in college. I'm not going to offer that up. What I will say is that I don't know if it could put you unconscious, but I also don't know anyone who's ever smoked that much marijuana.
Well, that's true.
At one time. Later that month, a total of 32 subpoenas were issued by Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Richard Garrett, who announced he would conduct a prosecutor's examination. Garrett had gone to the railroad crossing and waited for a train, which strengthened his suspicion that the deaths were not accidental. He said, "I can't believe the boys could not get up if they were alive because it's really frightening."
Exactly what we were saying.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that conversation, right? A train weighing 6,000 tons and going 52 miles per hour is not only really hard to stop, but it makes a heck of a racket. This guy is calling it frightening. Sheriff Jim Steed said at the time that his office had never closed its investigation and would continue until there were no other leads to gather. These days, I'm all about quality over quantity, especially in my closet. If it's not well made and versatile, it's just not worth it to me. That's honestly why I love Quince. The fabrics feel elevated, the cuts are thoughtful, and the pricing actually makes sense. Quince makes high-quality wardrobe staples using premium fabrics like 100% European linen, 100% silk, and organic cotton poplin. Quince works directly with safe, ethical factories and cuts out the middlemen. So you're not paying for brand markup or fancy retail stores, just quality clothing. Quince clothing is consistently rated 4.5 to 5 stars by thousands of customers, real people wearing these pieces every day and actually loving them. And I am one of those people. I can't get enough of Quince's performance flow knit line. Shorts, joggers, tops. It's basically all I wear anymore. Stop waiting to build the wardrobe you actually want. You don't need a closet full of options. You need pieces that work. Right now, go to quince.com/truecrime for free shipping and 365-day returns. That's a full year to wear it and love it, and you will. Now available in Canada too. Don't keep settling for clothes that don't last. Go to QUINCE.com/truecrime for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/truecrime. You know, when Gibby and I first started this podcast, we really had very little idea what we were doing, and we had so many questions about how things worked. We also had fears. You know, what if no one listens? What if we make fools of ourselves? But one thing that was really simplified was our merchandising when we partnered with Shopify. It really helps when you have a partner like Shopify on your side to help. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., from household names like Mattel to True Crime All the Time, to brands just getting started. Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. And did I mention that iconic purple Shop Pay button that's used by millions of businesses around the world? It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. It also helps boost conversions, meaning less carts going abandoned and more sales for you. It's time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/unsolved. Go to shopify.com/unsolved. That's shopify.com/unsolved. The AP reported at the time that the official file from the hospital included the notation from a paramedic that said, "Blood from the bodies and on the body parts we observed was a dark color in nature. Due to our training, this would indicate a lack of oxygen present in the blood and could pose a question as to how long the victims had been down or dead."
I think that's a good indication right there.
The prosecutor's examination began on February 18th, 1988. Matt Blevins, a friend of Don and Kevin, remarked at the hearing that he believed the suspicious man who fired at a police officer may have killed his friends. It was a week before the murders that a man wearing military fatigues was seen near the tracks. His behavior was suspicious, and when Officer Danny Allen stopped to question him, he opened fire and fled. Police searched the area but never found the suspect. Okay, so this friend of the boys is saying, hey, it could have been this guy. Very strange for someone to fire on a police officer and then take off.
And then flash forward to these two kids carrying a spotlight and a weapon Could it easily be thought that they were looking for this guy?
Maybe they were some kind of law enforcement and this guy got freaked out. Okay, yeah, I see where you're going. And the fact that if this was just a week before the murders, It's not like it was 3 years before. On the night Kevin and Don were killed, witnesses again saw a man in military fatigues heading down a road less than 200 yards from where they were found. Dwayne Biggs testified that he saw Don and Kevin at 11:15 at a ballpark in Little Rock. They had been in Don's car, and Kevin took a pistol from the vehicle to show him. Mike Seaman, who was also there, said each boy had a small bag of marijuana. 9 people shared a total of 5 marijuana cigarettes while they were hanging out in the ballpark. And to me, that sounds much more reasonable.
Yeah.
9 people sharing 5 joints as opposed to 2 kids smoking 20.
Yeah. Big difference.
The boys were laughing and grinning like they were up to something. This is according to Mike, when they talked about their plans to hunt near the railroad tracks. Paramedic Billy Heath testified that the blood on the victims was darker than he thought it should be if the boys were alive when the train hit them. He was asked what he thought the blood would look like if the boys were dead before they were hit, and said the blood would be quite dark, very dark, and there probably won't be very much blood out of the body. Deputy Kathy Carty also testified, my initial response then and my personal opinion now is that I felt it was a very strange situation, and I do not believe we had 2 young men lay side by side on the train tracks. None of us in our minds could accept that happening. Shirley Raper, the other paramedic on the scene, testified that the bodies were almost colorless. And this is really, to me, gives fascinating testimony. I mean, these are not lay people. You know, we have a deputy, we have 2 paramedics saying these boys, they did not look like they were alive when the train hit them.
And this is going to back up the parents' theory
that their sons did not willingly lay down in front of the train or smoke so much marijuana that they just lost consciousness and it happened to be on the railroad tracks.
Laying side by side like they were.
Shirley also revealed information that was not in her report. While searching for a place to drive the ambulance to the accident scene, she picked up a man who directed her to a single-lane road leading into the wooded area. When she had gotten about a quarter mile into the area, she saw headlights from a pickup truck. There were 3 people in the truck, but she couldn't identify them. She did not approach the vehicle. Because the road was getting narrow, she left the ambulance and walked around a curve in the road. The man remained in the ambulance. She didn't ask his name, but when she returned to the ambulance, the truck was gone. She said she was never interviewed by investigators, which is why she didn't mention this. The men from her testimony were soon identified as volunteer firefighters who were attempting to assist authorities. Okay, so that maybe explains the guys in the truck. Who's this man that she picked up?
Yeah, this mystery man. Is this maybe the shooter from the week before?
And I think that has to be either against protocol or, at least out of the ordinary for a paramedic, somebody in an ambulance, to just pick a stranger up.
I would find it strange.
Dr. Fahmy Malik reaffirmed his original findings during the hearing. Dr. Malik called the testimony of the witnesses, who doubted that marijuana would have caused such a deep sleep that the boys would not hear the train coming, speculative and without substance. He said the victims took the secret with them. We are survivors trying to explain it. We may never know. I think there's no doubt there's a part of that that's true. I mean, the survivors are always trying to explain what happened, right? When there is no explanation given. And there is always the possibility that we may never know the full truth. I mean, you have that in pretty much every unsolved case. Malik also said he gave the teens the benefit of the doubt by labeling the deaths accidental after ruling out homicide. The sheriff's office told him there was no evidence of suicide and there were no suspicious wounds on the bodies. And I'm just wondering, the condition of the boys' bodies was described in such a brutal way, mangled.
Mangled, yeah.
And we talked about it, right? The 6,000-ton train barreling down at 52 miles an hour. I think it would be hard to do a full, complete examination and figure out whether there were any wounds on those bodies that could have caused death.
That's true.
Again, I'm not a medical examiner and I wasn't there. I can only imagine, though, what condition those bodies were in. At the end of the session, Deputy Prosecutor Richard Garrett said he'd review the testimony before deciding whether to reopen the case. On February 26th, Garrett concluded the file would remain active and the investigation would continue. Garrett listed several unanswered questions in the case. According to the Jonesboro Sun, the questions were, why would the boys be lying with their heads flat on the railway bed when it would have been much more comfortable to have leaned their heads against the rail? Why would the position of their bodies be exactly the same? And why did neither boy make any movement as the train approached? Why did one boy have his shirt off? And apparently the shirt was some type of pullover, which when found was torn from the armpit to its base. Another question was, why was the whiskey bottle not found? Because apparently witnesses testified the boys had a bottle of whiskey in their vehicle, but we said it, right? Neither of them had alcohol in their blood.
Right.
According to the autopsy findings. Did the green tarp exist? And if so, what happened to it? Would trauma of a similar type sustained near the time of death have been detectable through autopsy? So some of these questions are some of the exact same ones we've been asking. You asked it, right? Why would their bodies be in the exact same position side by side?
Yeah, if they smoked and then passed out, they're not going to fall into the same position. Doesn't make any sense.
And for me, the two other big ones are this green tarp, right? The engineer said he saw it. They never found it. And then also, could signs of homicidal violence have been detectable through autopsy, given the state of the condition of these bodies?
I mean, if you killed these two boys and you wanted to make it very hard for someone to determine the death of them, well, I guess if you put them on the track, cover up the bodies with a tarp and hope that the train coming down doesn't spot them or doesn't spot them in time.
And probably given where you put them and how the track might curve, you might know that there is no possible way that a oncoming train is going to be able to stop.
Right.
No matter what they do. So you're talking about cause of death.
Yeah.
Garrett also revealed there were no concrete suspects, but there were people they believed had information. In March 1988, the parents announced that Dr. James Garrett of San Antonio had given a second opinion of Malik's findings. Garrett concluded it was highly unlikely for any amount of THC exposure to have the effects that Dr. Malik had alleged, and that mass spectrometry, the only true reliable test for the presence of drugs in the boys' systems, had not been performed. Another toxicologist, Dr. Arthur J. McBray of North Carolina, called Malik's conclusions very bizarre and said he'd never heard anyone becoming unconscious from exposure to any amount of THC.
So kind of aligning with our thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, again, do people get tired and pass out? Well, sure. I've seen many guys in college just, eventually you just get tired and you kind of pass out. Yeah. But to be unconscious, that's a completely different thing. But I want to go back to this mass spectrometry. I mean, does it call into question the validity of the amount of marijuana this guy said was in their systems. Because to me, it was such a high amount that he was quoting.
It really was high.
And you go back to people saying that there was 9 people, and between them, they smoked 5 joints. Dr. Lee F. Beamer, an independent forensic pathologist and former state crime lab employee, reviewed the autopsy results, x-rays, and slides, and contended that neither the investigation nor the postmortem exam were complete. His report stated that there was no way to prove the boys had not been rendered helpless by blunt trauma to the head area prior to the train impact. According to Dr. Beamer, it's well known that the massive trauma of a train impact makes it impossible to say with certainty there was no preceding trauma of a similar type. And that makes absolute sense to me.
It does.
I think what these people are also really calling into question is, the original examinations. And obviously, the police and the authorities are going to take their cues from the autopsy.
Sure they are.
And if that's wrong, then the information they've been operating on is wrong.
And it seems to me at this point that it was wrong.
Well, you have multiple professionals saying that it was, or at the very least, it was incomplete.
Right.
The lung showed contusion and aspiration of blood, which is typical for cases in which blood is present in the airway during terminal breathing. This could have been caused by a skull fracture prior to the other injuries. And I'm taking that to mean if they were already deceased.
Right.
The train coming along and hitting them would not cause them to breathe in blood or for blood to get in their airway because they're already dead.
It was whatever trauma happened prior to that.
Beamer also said the possibility that Don Henry was strangled prior to being hit could not be ruled out. He believes the boys were alive at the time of impact, or if not alive, dead for only a short amount of time. Beamer claimed Dr. Malik did not follow proper procedure by not listing the dental findings and gross findings by organ system for one victim. No organ weights were listed for Don, and the listing of the liver weight for Kevin was an error. So, he's really hammering this doctor, basically saying he did a shoddy job.
Yeah. Wonder in this county, if this doctor didn't have to perform a lot of these.
Well, we did say this was a very small town in Arkansas. Not sure, where this coroner was from, but maybe you're right. Maybe they didn't have a lot of homicides, or maybe they definitely didn't have a lot of situations like this, because I don't know how many jurisdictions would.
Yeah.
This is a very strange, bizarre situation. The photography was also poor, and 7 x-rays were useless because there was no identification.
Sounds like that's just being sloppy.
Yeah, sloppy, shoddy, whatever you want to call it. They're just really calling into question this guy's work and the autopsy that was done. I wholeheartedly believe in therapy, but finding a therapist is hard enough. Finding one who actually takes your insurance, that's where most online therapy platforms fall short. Many don't work with insurance at all, which means you're stuck paying the full cost out of pocket or paying for an expensive monthly subscription. Rula does things differently. They partner with over 100 insurance plans, making the average copay just $15 per session. That's real therapy from licensed professionals at a price that actually makes sense. Think about it. You use your insurance benefits to maintain your physical health. So why wouldn't you do the same for your mental health? There's no wait list, no frustrating back and forth. Rula makes it easy to find a mental health provider who is accepting new patients, and appointments are available as soon as tomorrow. There have been times in my life when anxiety and stress built up to the point where I could have really used therapy. But back then, there was nothing like Rula around. As I've gotten older, I've used online therapy, and I can genuinely say it works. Thousands of people are already using Rula to get affordable, high-quality therapy that's actually covered by insurance. Visit Rula.com/TCAT to get started. After you sign up, you'll be asked how you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know we sent you. That's RULA.com/TCATT. You deserve mental health care that works with you, not against your budget. True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations. Dr. Beamer also noted the possibility that someone covered their bodies with the tarp. And so this green tarp, which we've talked about on a number of occasions, became a central issue in this case. Neither Don nor Kevin owned a green tarp, meaning it's possible someone was at the scene and covered their bodies. All four individuals on the train who were able to see the bodies prior to the accident saw the green tarp. Police who searched the scene later denied that the train's engineer told them about a tarp. The sheriff's office denied the existence of the tarp and said that the crew's observation was an optical illusion.
How do they know it was an optical illusion?
I have no idea. But, these people on the train, they have no vested interest in lying, right? What's in it for them to lie about this green tarp?
Yeah.
On March 23rd, 1988, a judge ordered the exhumation of the bodies. A grand jury was ordered to convene on April 27th to investigate the deaths. On May 25th, the grand jury reversed the medical examiner's original finding of accidental death and ruled the boys' deaths probable homicide. The grand jury's preliminary report called for a state police investigation. And that doesn't surprise me at all. Based on the things that we've talked about, a lot of which I assume would have been testimony given, to this grand jury, there's got to be a lot of doubt about the fact that these boys were unconscious laying on these tracks.
I'd have a lot of issues with the first autopsy.
Yeah, and I'm sure they did too. If you had all these people testifying, kind of poking holes, saying this guy did a bad job or at the very least was incomplete, Dr. Joe Burton, an Atlanta pathologist hired by the county to perform the second autopsies, testified that Dr. Malik's exams were consistent in their form and content with what might be expected from a medical examiner who is asked to examine the remains of two individuals who allegedly have died by accidental means in a pedestrian train accident. So to me, that goes back to kind of the judgment early on that this was an accident. So is he saying the autopsy was done as though this was an accident? So there are certain things that you wouldn't do that maybe you would do if it was possibly a homicide.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what he's saying, right? Like the first time the autopsy was performed, the guy went in there with, the way I hear it, it's kind of like blinders. Like he went in like, it's only this, so just verify certain things that back that up.
And maybe the scope would be different if, he was given different information. The second autopsy determined that together, the boys smoked between 1 and 3 marijuana cigarettes. Far less than the 20 estimated by the previous examiner.
That's a big difference.
And again, it goes back to me, 20 just does not sound plausible. There was also evidence that one boy was already dead and one unconscious before the train hit them. On September 9th, 1988, the grand jury gave an interim report stating the deaths were now classified as definitely homicide. This is a huge change.
Yeah, it's a big shift.
Microscopic scanning of a torn section of a shirt worn by Don and analysis of a puncture wound to his back indicated he sustained injuries prior to those inflicted by the train. This information was in a video presentation by Dr. Joe Burton, who performed the second autopsies and subsequent tissue and clothing tests. His presentation was shown when the ruling was announced. And we said it, right? Don's shirt was not found on his body. It was found some distance away from the railroad track. The shirt had what was said to have been lots of tears and defects. Burton took the shirt to a private lab in Atlanta and cut out a 1-inch tear from the left lower back area where the injury was. The microscopic examination showed that the defect in the shirt was made by something cutting through the fabric. There were also red blood cells around the margins of the defect. So, I don't think there's any doubt, right? The second autopsy, much different than the first one. The findings are different. Although the ruling had been changed, investigators still face the question of who killed Don and Kevin.
Yeah, that's still sitting out there.
But I go back to what I said earlier. If it's not investigated as a possible homicide from the get-go, you're really putting yourself at a big disadvantage, right?
Well, you're behind the 8 ball for sure.
When asked by Unsolved Mysteries for his thoughts on the case, Deputy Prosecutor Richard Garrett alleged that the boys saw something they shouldn't have, and it had to do with drugs. According to the Encyclopedia of Arkansas, Sheriff Steed refused any funds to aid in the investigation and lied about where he sent the boys' clothes. He sent them to the state crime lab and not to the FBI as intended.
Why would he do that?
I don't know, but this Steed guy doesn't come off as great, right? He comes off as not wanting to really investigate this case.
It almost makes you wonder if there's
something else to it?
Yeah.
Or some reason behind it?
Yeah.
Those who study this case have noted that at least 5 witnesses died or disappeared between 1988 and 1990. That seems like a big number.
That's a very large number.
Keith McCaskill, an informant for Dan Harmon, who took aerial photos of the crime scene, was murdered on November 10th, 1988, 2 days after Sheriff Steed lost re-election. According to the website Arkansas Gravestones, Keith turned over information about the boys' murder to prosecutor Richard Garrett. He feared for his life and told his family and friends goodbye. Days later, he was murdered. He was stabbed over 100 times.
Holy cow, man.
That's a lot.
100 times. And he saw this coming.
Yeah, he told his family and friends as much, right? Richard Garrett said that McCaskill was not a potential witness for the grand jury and that his information was not earth-shattering, per the Jonesboro Sun. So, I don't know. Was this guy killed because of this case, or did he meet some grisly end that at the hands of somebody that really had nothing to do with the case? I don't know. What I will say is being stabbed 100 times, that is a big, big number.
It's a huge number. But to say, is it related or not? We don't know. But when you have so many people tied to this potential case that end up murdered, then it makes you think maybe it is.
In August 1989, Ronald Shane Smith was sentenced to 10 years in prison for the murder of McCaskill. The murder weapon was never found, and no clear motive was ever established. There was talk that Smith was allegedly paid to kill McCaskill. An inmate named Kenneth Kittler testified that he was offered $4,000 to kill Keith, but he declined. This testimony was not allowed at trial. So again, if he was paid to kill Keith McCaskill, who paid him and why?
Yeah.
It almost sounds like if it did happen, then there's some bigger cover-up going on that we don't even know about. Keith Coney, who was scheduled to testify before the grand jury, died in a motorcycle accident in early January 1989. Greg Collins, who was also called to testify and was an acquaintance of Coney, was fatally shot on January 22nd, 1989. Now, a motorcycle accident, those happen.
Good.
Motorcycles are dangerous and people die. But I think when your friend or your acquaintance and another person connected to the case dies the same month from a gunshot wound. Well, maybe you look at that motorcycle accident a little differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Witness Daniel Booney Bearden, who was subpoenaed to testify, went missing. In March 1989, Jeffrey Edward Rhodes, who was linked to the case, was found dead in a landfill on April 15th, 1989. The charred skeletal remains consisted of a rib cage, other bones, and teeth. Rhodes was last seen at his apartment in Benton on April 3rd. He left with 2 other people. His motorcycle was found on April 4th behind a church in Saline County. Rhodes was killed by a gunshot to the head. There were no suspects or motives. So, again, I don't know what you make of it, but you have 4 people who either were set to testify, did testify, or had links to the case who were found dead in about a 4-month period.
Very suspicious.
It is. But again, who would want them dead?
And why?
And why? Dr. Fahmy Malik resigned from his position in 1991. Prosecutor Dan Harmon was later convicted of racketeering, conspiracy, extortion, and drug possession with intent to distribute. In 1997, he was sentenced to 11 years in prison. Never good for a prosecutor.
No, his career is pretty much over.
But the drug angle, right? There are a lot of theories to this day that kind of revolve around Henry and Ives' deaths having something to do with drug trafficking. And you have the prosecutor who was convicted of possession with intent to distribute.
Yeah. Makes you think, how high up did this go?
There's one theory that they were murdered after witnessing a drug drop from an airplane. This claim links the case to the operations of Barry Seal, a commercial airline pilot who became a major smuggler for the Medellin cartel and the Mina Airport in nearby Polk County. However, no direct link has been documented. Is Barry Seal the guy that Tom Cruise played in that movie where he was the pilot trafficking drugs?
I think so.
He might have been. I don't know. I don't know if I've seen that movie. I just see it pop up all the time.
Wasn't that called like the All-American or something like that?
I don't think so.
No? I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't. Made in America.
Made in America, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then he flipped sides, right?
But I haven't seen it.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if it's Barry Seal or not. In 1999, investigative journalist Mara Leverett published the book, The Boys on the Tracks, Death, Denial, and a Mother's Crusade to bring her son's killers to justice, which also addresses the alleged involvement of the authorities in the murders. According to Mora, Dr. Fahmy Malik was accused by his own staff of keeping outdated crime lab stationery on which he allegedly falsified findings and autopsy reports just before certain cases went to court. The hospital where the boys were taken and examined kept no records of their presence there. The hospital clerk told an investigator that was why the families weren't billed.
Okay. I mean, things are looking pretty shady.
In 1996, film producer Patrick Matriciana released Obstruction of Justice, The Mina Connection, which also made allegations against authorities. A graphic at the end of the film stated, suspects implicated in Ives Henry murders and cover-up, and listed the names of Jay Campbell and Kirk Lane, both of whom worked for the neighboring Pulaski County Sheriff's Office. Campbell and Lane sued the producer and his film company, and they won $600,000.
Wow.
So, I mean, you do have to be careful.
Absolutely.
Saying people did this or did that or were implicated in this or that. However, in July 2001, the U.S. Court of Appeals in St. Louis ruled that Matriciani did not libel two officers by stating that they were implicated in the murders. The phrase implicated in was too vague for us to conclude the officers had been accused of criminal contempt. You know, words matter, and, you know, there's a fine line.
Sure is.
That's why person of interest and suspect are different, things like that.
Allegedly.
allegedly is used a lot. In August 2016, Kevin's mother, Linda Ives, filed a new lawsuit citing a violation of the Freedom of Information Act by local and federal officials or stonewalling in relation to the deaths. On November 15, 2017, a federal judge ordered the Executive Office of U.S. Attorneys, the DEA, and Department of Homeland Security to turn over for private review documents that had formerly been redacted. Linda's suit was dismissed in 2019. In February 2018, William Albert Haynes, a wrestler who went by the name Billy Jack Haynes, claimed he witnessed the murders. He told KARK he reached out to Larry and Linda Ives. After years of guilt, they connected with a PI, and Haynes shared his story in a YouTube video designed to raise money for the investigation. He claimed that while performing in the 1980s for the World Wrestling Federation, which is now the WWE, he transported and trafficked cocaine throughout the U.S. This brought him to Arkansas. In August 1987, he was contacted by an Arkansas criminal politician who asked if he would provide muscle during a transaction. The politician was suspicious that cash was being stolen from drops. While conducting security, Haynes witnessed the murder of Kevin Ives and Don Henry. He said they were killed by other individuals who were working for the same criminal politician. Their bodies were put on the tracks. Haynes said he handed over the names of everyone involved, but those names were not made public. So there are a lot of interesting angles to this thing, Gibbs. You know, as we wrap this thing up, I mean, you have a lot of theories that kind of center around drugs.
Yeah.
You've got this wrestler saying, you know, he witnessed the murders. You've got the prosecutor was convicted of essentially drug trafficking or intent to traffic. So this theory that, you know, the two boys witnessed something they shouldn't have and were killed because of it. I mean, you'd have to say it's definitely a possibility. And then afterwards, their bodies were placed on the tracks, knowing that the train would come along and mangle their bodies as it did.
I definitely think the boys were murdered. I really believe that. I believe they were murdered.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way too, just because of kind of everything involved, right? The tarp, the position of their bodies, some of the experts saying that they had marks that would indicate trauma before the trauma caused by the train, the color of the blood, that their bodies were colorless. I mean, there was just a lot of people and people in positions who you wouldn't think would lie, kind of saying things that made it sound like they were most likely murdered before the train hit them. You know, to me, the amount of marijuana in their system is huge. The second autopsy said it was much, much less, right? But to me, the big thing is, okay, if they were murdered, is there this cover-up angle of like politicians and authorities who were involved? Because that's a lot of what the theories kind of focus on.
It does. It makes me wonder the same thing. You know, is this one of those rural counties that people were mixed up in the drug business and they had people in high-level positions assisting?
Yeah, I don't know. Linda Ives died in 2021. Linda's sister, Carol, said she lost consciousness and was septic due to an infection. It's been 38 years since Don Henry and Kevin Ives were killed, and the questions remain, right? Were they killed because they accidentally, you know, came upon a drug deal or some type of illegal activity while they were out hunting? Were local authorities involved? I don't know what it would take to get these answers. Probably someone coming forward with some type of confession, because this doesn't seem like, if this is the way it went down, it doesn't seem like this was something that a bunch of people weren't privy to.
Right.
There had to have been like a number of people involved if it went down the way that some people theorize. But it's a fascinating case. You hate that 2 young people lost their lives, but the questions of what happened to them are so very interesting. And the facts around it, they're hard to ignore.
It's true.
But that's it for our episode on Don Henry and Kevin Ives. We got a voicemail. You want to check that out?
Let's hear it.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. I'm calling from Victoria, Australia. Well, I just wanted to say how much I love your podcast. I've actually been watching you since I started high school, and now I'm graduated and starting uni. So I just realized that. I was like, oh my gosh, so you guys have been like a big thing in my, growing up in my childhood. I love listening to you guys talk about true crime with my mum. Well, anyway, I just wanted to say how much I love the podcast, and yeah, keep your own. Yeah, just continue doing what you guys do. Thank you.
Awesome. Love the voicemail. So, she has to be in between my 2 daughters' ages.
Yeah, that's what it seems like, mate.
I love when people say uni. I love that.
Oh, yeah, the uni, yeah.
That cracks me up so much just because we never hear it here.
We don't.
But they do say it in other parts of the world. And I always love it. And I love Australian accents. You've heard me say that.
I know. You have a thing for it, mate.
Yeah. I had a big thing for Kylie Minogue when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know. We see the post. I see the poster on the wall still.
Okay. You sounded more like Paul McCartney there.
Did I?
Yeah, than Australia. That was not, I didn't hear Australia at all.
Most Australian people came from.
It's more John Lennon, Paul McCartney to me. Actually, that's probably a better British accent than when you try to do the British accent.
Yeah, much better. Yeah.
I don't know. But it's cool, right? That
it is.
We talk about it. We've been doing this thing for a long time and our lives have changed. So obviously the people who listen, their lives have changed as well.
Absolutely.
And we're just glad to be along for the ride.
Yeah. And congrats to you being at uni.
Or graduating. Did you say she graduated, I think?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe.
So congratulations on that.
That's a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
All right, buddy, that is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
TV has thousands of free movies and TV shows.
I swear.
If I'm lying, I'm dying.
This is the mindset.
Free.
This is the mantra.
Free.
This is the mindset.
With movies like Interstellar, Dreamgirls, and Gladiator.
Are you not entertained?
And TV shows like Survivor, SpongeBob SquarePants, The Fairly Odd Parents, and Ghosts. Pluto TV is always free.
Huzzah!
Pluto TV. Stream now. Pay never.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.